Hey guys, it's Sean and Dave from Saturday Morning Cartoons here, and we want to give a shout out to some fantastic people who have gone over to our Patreon account to support this podcast. So we need to give a huge shout out to Derek Haynes,
Alex Kazanis,
Carson Clark,
Jamal Newman,
Jason Woods,
Melanie Harker,
Allison Keene,
the one and only Sean Paul Ellis.
Oh, and the wonderful David Trumbore.
Now, it might sound kind of strange that we're thanking ourselves and other familiar names that you know from the podcast, but we really want you guys to know that we are putting our hard-earned dollars into the show as well, so it's only fair, if we're asking you to do the same, that we did it first. And even if you can't contribute anything to a monthly Patreon, we just ask that you go and share the Patreon link and just let people know about the show if it's something you enjoy. So again, you can head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons, make a contribution, or just share the wealth. We appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening.
And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from Dogtown, USA. I'll be your co-host, Dave Trumbore. Joining me as always, straight from the doghouse, it's Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, Sean?
David, it's going well, buddy. How about yourself?
It's going to be a little rough tonight, what do you think? Yeah, I had to sneak that one in there.
Man.
Early. Dog puns.
God, I'm glad you did it because you started this dog pun trend, and I can choose to either, put it to bed, or I can continue to, I can continue to keep up with this. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know. There's like a part of me that's just like, if it comes up organically, you know what, I want it to happen, and I want to relish it. If it doesn't, though, like I'm not gonna be too upset about it.
I heard you say choose, and I feel like you're throwing me a bone there. So yeah.
God damn it, Dave.
Good stuff.
This is what we're doing tonight.
Dogs and stuff.
Dogs and stuff.
We've decided to rename this cartoon Dogs and Stuff. And if you can figure out what we're talking about from that, then congratulations. We've actually talked about, I don't know if we've talked more dogs or dinosaurs. I feel like dinosaurs, but
dinosaurs. 100% dinosaurs.
We haven't talked enough dogs then.
Yeah, we definitely haven't, which is tonight why we're talking about this cartoon called Road Rovers.
Get into it.
Did you watch this?
Yeah. I didn't realize it was only, well, I don't want to spoil your spot here, so if you want to give folks the history, and then we can talk about it, yeah.
No. So, if you're not aware, Road Rovers is an American animated television series produced by Warner Brothers Animation, which premiered on the Kids WB in 1996, ending after one season. Reruns aired on Cartoon Network from 1998 until 2000, and a DVD of the entire series was released in 2015.
So that's what I was going to say. I remember watching this on TV, and I remember enjoying it. Like, I didn't get totally invested with it, as some of the fans of the show happened to be. But yeah, I remember it being on TV. I dug it. I had fun with it. And then, yeah, it was only 13 episodes long. Or I guess, was it 13 or 26? What did you just say?
The world may never know.
Use your Google machines. I thought I wrote that down. But it might be 26, but it was only one season regardless. Which was kind of surprising because it seemed like a good cast, a good production quality. And actually, I mentioned the cast because this one happened to be put together and voice directed by the legendary veteran of animation, Andrea Romano, who we want to give a shout out to this week because she actually just retired, probably by the time you guys are listening to it, a week or so ago. But yeah, so she is retired. She's still in the industry and plans to stay in the entertainment industry, but not as a casting director, not as a voice director. But she's been working like right up until her retirement. The most recent things she did were Nico and the Sword of Light, which is a cool, kind of younger skewing action adventure series on Amazon. You guys should check out. It's really well produced and a lot of fun. Cool new mythology. She's also done the voice direction for the latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles season on Nickelodeon. And what else? Oh, and Voltron, too. Voltron is now back on Netflix for its third season. You guys have probably checked that out and are waiting for the fourth season this October. But she's done those three shows that have all come out just in like the last couple of weeks. But her career goes back to like the early days. I think like early DuckTales. She did a lot of like early 80s Hanna-Barbera stuff, I believe. And then obviously the main thing that she's known for is bringing in Mark Hamill as the Joker in Batman the Animated Series. And if you do nothing else with your career, I feel like you've had it made if you've been able to claim that. So congratulations to Andrea Romano. She'll be missed, but thankfully she's still hanging around, just retired.
Congratulations.
And thanks for listening to the show, Andrea. Appreciate it.
God, I hope she's listening, because we would love to have her on. We'd love to chat with her about
I think
all
she
this
said
stuff.
when she retires, she wants to listen to more cartoon podcasts. I'm pretty sure.
I'm
pretty sure that was her plan.
God, because this. I'm going to tell you about this little podcast that's going to be right in her wheelhouse. It's called Saturday Morning Cartoons, Morning with You.
I hope this is the first episode she listens to, because we're talking Road Rovers. Do you know what Road Rovers is about? Did you know what it was about before we got into it tonight?
I had an idea. I don't think that I had really ever watched this cartoon. I was aware that it existed, and I had talked about it because I believe last year we were thinking about doing an entire month of August that was just going to be called Dog Days of Summer.
That was your idea, and it was a good one, and I, for some reason, kiboshed it, and I can't remember why.
No, I think you were like, let's watch Transformers for a month, and I pulled my eyes out at some point.
Sorry,
so.
Apologies.
No, that's okay. It doesn't matter. It was definitely one of those shows that I was aware of. It was in my cartoon zeitgeist, and just hadn't really ever watched it though. So tonight was me being indoctrinated to Road Rovers in all of its glory. And to answer your question, it was only 13
It was 13.
episodes.
I thought I read that, but then I had a brain spaz and I couldn't remember.
But it was 13 4-hour episodes. Each episode was 4 hours. So a lot of information jam-packed in there.
That's why they had to wait till 2015 for a DVD release. They didn't have the optics to handle it.
Blu-ray was the only format that could fit and accommodate that size and volume. You could break it into multiple VHSs. You could have put it on several DVDs, but I mean, really, why not just wait until the convenience of being able to put 40 plus gigs worth of information on one Blu-ray disc? This week, sponsored by Blu-ray.
I love it. Sponsored by the medium of Blu-ray. We're not yet up to 4K HDR, unfortunately.
I know that I was indoctrinated this week, but for other people who don't know what Road Rovers is about, Dave, could you give us a little bit of information?
Yeah, here's a synopsis, which unfortunately is also like half the plot of the first episode, so I apologize in advance. But 1 year prior to the formation of the Road Rovers in the town of Socorro, New Mexico, Professor Shepard was forced to relinquish experimental transdogmifier technology, stick with us, to General Parvo in exchange for his lost dog. But instead, Parvo gives him a bomb that destroys his laboratory. Spoiler alert, that's half of the first episode right there. The following year, as normal dogs begin to mutate into monsters, Shepard, who miraculously survived the attack, takes measures to stop Parvo by selecting 5 different dogs and using his new transdogmifier on them, turning them into Canis sapiens and forming the Road Rovers. I did not literally expect that to be the first half of this first episode, but that's essentially what happened. There's plenty of fun things to talk about along the way, but even in this synopsis, right? Let's talk about a couple things. Professor Shepard. You've already got your first pun. A transdogmifier.
Yep.
Nailed it.
It was very Calvin and Hobbes for me. The cardboard box that he has that's like the transmogrifier. And I was like, transdogma? Okay, you know what? I'm on board for this.
Good.
Let's go.
General Parvo is the only one that kind of weirds me out a little bit. Well, because of parvovirus. It's like a very nasty kind of infection agent for like puppies. It can like kill puppies. And that's never a thing you want to really talk about.
You don't want to, but let's be honest. He's right on brand with this. Yeah. So if he's looking for parvovirus to kill dogs, he's doing a pretty great job of it.
It's an inspired name because most kids aren't going to be like, parvovirus. Nailed it. Yeah. But General Parvo is pretty good. Pretty good name.
And most 37-year-old adults are going to be like, Parvo, why does that sound so familiar? And then Google it and be like, oh my God, what am I looking at?
Why am I watching this 40 gig Blu-ray of Road Rovers?
That's just a lecture, a TED Talk on parvovirus.
It's just about vaccine safety. But that's all to say that like this entire cartoon is full of those kinds of puns and like asides and one-liners and even dialogue that like went by so fast that I had to stop and be like, wait, did they just really slip another joke in there? Like a lot of wordplay and a lot of really fun stuff. Yeah.
This all brings us to sort of this introduction of the show, kind of what we're hit with right at the beginning. Talk about them theme songs. Man, I thought this this theme song for me is if Brian Setzer, not from the orchestra, but probably more Stray Cats era, if he got together with the theme song intro for the cartoon Freakazoid.
They made a little baby.
And they made a little baby that was the Road Rovers intro.
Yeah, that actually really works well. I was racking my brain trying to think of what this reminded me of, and that's pretty spot on.
Yeah. So it was definitely, it's very enjoyable. It's an earworm for me. But I'll be honest with you, the vocals that are in this go so quickly that Dave and I, before recording, as we've kind of been like laughing and like bopping our heads about it, the tune is kind of like, is just like dun 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 dun, and we've just been like, we've just been inserting like dogs and stuff, and that's been it, and it's catchy as hell. I couldn't give you one word that was probably in that entire theme song.
I can give you 5 because they're the names of the characters, which I actually really appreciated because it's a roll call, and we've seen that a lot of times, and we like it here on SMC. We like when you do a roll call.
Love them roll calls.
Great roll call,
man. Yeah, you're. And you get some weird kind of situations where the animals are, where the canine stars of our show are really taking the center stage, and it's just very peculiar to kind of watch, because for as fast as this theme song is, then you get to certain characters and it just kind of lingers on it uncomfortably for like 2 seconds, and you're like, what are they doing with this?
And we should explain that it's not dogs like, All Dogs Go to Heaven. I don't know why that's the first movie that came to mind, but it's not like, I don't know, parvovirus, the puppies and everything. It's got me real down. It's not like normal dogs, right? These are anthropomorphic dogs that are in like suits, and they stand upright and they walk like human beings. They just have like dog heads, essentially. So yeah, it's a little unnerving to just be watching this in this sort of situation. But here's why I really like this roll call. Usually when we get a roll call, it's just, there are degrees of roll calliness, right? So there's like, you can show the character on screen and like scroll their name across in the background. You can show the character on screen doing something that's like shows their personality while you say their name. So that kind of like reinforces like, oh, that's who this is what they do, and this is what they look like. That's great. Or you can do what Road Rovers does. You can say their name, show the character doing something they're known for doing, and then actually hear the character have like a quick little callback or a quick little call and answer kind of thing, where you actually get to hear their voice too. So it really cements early on who these characters are, what their name is, and what they sound like. So you're instantly like in. Like as soon as this show starts, you know who everybody is going to be. And then it's kind of funny because they don't actually show up for 15 minutes. But the roll call, really well done. I wish more cartoons would do stuff like this, to be honest.
As I was watching this, there was a subtle kind of nod to the song "The Leader of the Pack," which is all about
was that motorcycle race back in the day.
Leader of a motorcycle gang. I think kind of driving recklessly, and then I believe towards the end dying. They have the reference where they hover over the leader of our pack and they say "leader of the pack," and he's on a motorcycle. Nice.
And then he dies.
And I was a really dark
intro.
Yeah, I didn't notice the reference. It took me like 2 seconds, but friend of the show, Melanie Harker, was like, "Did you see that?" And I had to pause and go back, and she's like, "This is the thing that I'm seeing right now." She's like, "That's very subtle," and I was like, "Well, I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but this show is very nuanced with a lot of these references."
There's a lot of that stuff that sneaks in, and I did not pick up on that. So I kind of want to like go back and watch at least like, I don't know, maybe not the first episode again, but yeah, even just look at the dialogue. It'd be great to like actually just see the script of this, to be able to just read through it slowly. They throw a lot of stuff at you here, and the theme song is a great intro to not only the pace of this thing, the kind of language they're going to throw at you, but also the look of the animation style as well, because it actually matches what you're going to see in the actual cartoon for the most part. Yeah.
Right.
Anything else from the theme song?
Yeah, you transition. I thought you were segueing directly into talking about animation.
I didn't want to cut you off. You had anything more to say? I thought maybe Mel had some more Easter eggs and insights.
She's
tapped out.
Now. She's tapped out.
What'd you think about the animation style? Remember, this is 1996 when this came out.
Right. I would say that this looked very similar to some of the other contemporaries that were coming on around that time. I really kind of equated it. And the thing that in my brain immediately stood out was with Tiny Toons Adventures and Animaniacs. We're talking about like we talked about last week, which is sort of like the heavy lines to kind of like separate and outline specific characters as well as all of the environment. This is much more subtle. It actually looks, like it's a little bit more human in terms of the outline and the design. Things are properly and seem like they're very well shaded in terms of what they had there. And you could tell it. I love the cartoons that you can tell things that are on something that's in the background that's going to have movement. Right. Because it's slightly different colored.
It's like a lighter hue or like a little. It stands out. Yeah.
Like it's like playing a video game and you see like a crack on the wall and you're just like, well, Link's got bombs. Maybe if I put a bomb, I think I found.
Or it's like I've been playing a lot of Skyrim lately because it's 2013 again, or whenever the hell that came out.
Dave, I only beat it like a couple months ago. I only bought it a couple months and beat it finally myself. So don't feel bad.
I love it. But it's like looking at.
I'm a gamer on a budget, same. Man.
Still rocking the PS3, and we bought it for 54 cents. It was great. Not the PS3, Skyrim. Jesus. But anyway, it's like looking at two different barrels and being like, oh, I can loot that one, but that one's a permanent fixture in this world. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a really long segue to just explain the same thing you just said.
But there's a couple scenes I remember there was notable about a guy who was I think he was trying to hijack a car. And you could tell that the door was going to open because the door was slightly different color. But still, at the same time, looking at all the environments that were there, I would say, like a pretty above average to complicated color palette that they had that was included in this, and just a lot of detail. I was surprised about a lot of the detail that was here, and sort of like we've mentioned before, good use of actual shading in this. Like I was kind of surprised about this because it wasn't like watching Ultra Force where everybody's just like one solid color and you're just like, oh, I don't know if they think that bodies don't contour or have any shading, but it's like when you see it without that kind of a setting, you're just like, oh man, that's really off. Like that's noticeably off. Like that's uncomfortably off.
The whole
for
show
me
is
right
uncomfortably
now.
Off. Ultra.
Whole idea is off. Jesus.
Sean.
I don't know why I don't know why Ultra Force becomes like my de facto just like I need to shit on it, but it's one of those cartoons that like even when I go back and watch, like if I've watched another episode or if I've like Googled it and seen stills from an episode that I haven't watched, I'm like, I got my fix for today. I can pretty much shut this computer down.
It is a rare show that makes Wildcats look okay. So
yeah, right.
It actually makes Wildcats look like palatable. Yikes. But honestly, for me, like you literally ticked off all of the bullet points that I had for this section. So I'm not going to repeat them, but I'd just like to emphasize really good scenery and sort of set construction and design where you actually see like if you see a forest in the background, you literally see like the sunlight on the tops of the trees, and it gets progressively darker as it gets down to like the forest floor. And there's no reason to do that. You're not going to go into that forest, but it just adds a nice little like layer of depth and a nice little bit of realism to the picture. Now, when Sean says detailed, I think that's what he means. Is like sort of the background stuff is more detailed than it tends to be in other cartoons. The characters themselves are relatively simple. They've got kind of sort of this suit of armor on them, and it doesn't have a lot of like little facets or anything on it. It's just kind of like it's pretty basic. But the rest of the design is really solid. It's pleasant to look at. It's well produced, and the animation itself, the actual like movement from scene to scene, or especially in the fight scenes, is fluid, and it's really nice to look at. It's well produced stuff. Let's get into these characters, bro. Who do you want to talk about first? We've got 7 good guys, and we've got about 4 to 5 bad guys.
I want to get into first and foremost because I think this is the character that I spend the longest amount of time trying to figure out is Colleen the collie.
She's technically a rough collie from the United Kingdom. I have a lot of stats on these guys that are probably too much. But
That's perfect. I love every minute of it. So she has like this terrible Elijah Doolittle type of Cockney British accent.
Tress
where
MacNeil was doing with this.
Yeah, I mean, it almost sounds insulting, but it's just silly to hear her. And at some point, I was just waiting for her just to be like, pip, pip, cheerio. I've been like, you know what, knock it off. Just whatever direction you think you're going with this, just please just...
Or she could have just started doing like lines from Snatch or something, because it wasn't like... It was like the rougher edge of the British accent, right? So it wasn't like the posh, refined, cultured,
right,
imperial.
That's what I'm saying. It's like Eliza Doolittle from like My Fair Lady, like, trying to like teach that person, to kind of talk in terms of like high society, and it came off like it was as frustrating for me to listen to as I'm assuming what it's the equivalent of me doing my Jamaican impression for you. It was just kind of. It was grating. The entire time it talked, it was grating.
See, it would have been interesting, I think, if she had gone for a more refined accent with that, because the character is interesting, because she's more of like a fighter. She's a skilled martial artist, but it would have been funny if she was a little more like stuffy and refined and pompous, because it would have played off that character. I think she did fine, but yeah, definitely a weird accent choice.
This is another friend of the show, Melanie Harker-ism. As when she gets turned into the actual Cano Sapien.
Dogmified? Yeah.
Dogmified? Yeah, that makes sense. Her immediate response was, I didn't even notice this until she said something. She goes, why the fuck does she have boobs?
Yeah, the boob armor.
Like, why did they give her
the weird
boob
thing, it was
armor?
like down by her pelvis where like the teats are. It was really strange to see that.
No, it was...
She had teat armor.
It was not. It was... No, she had breasts.
This is 2017. We do not need to be drawing teat armor on female dog heroes anymore. Ladies, am I right?
Dude, are you serious
that
there was teat armor? No, she had
teat armor.
She had like human style. You're fucking with me. She had human style breasts that were just like
and that's the thing. It goes to the ridiculousness of the design, where it's like not even anatomically correct, like weirdly human, creepily designed. Yeah, she had boob armor.
Yeah, boob armor. Also, when we get to the point where we sort of explain why Colleen has been recruited into this team, the information there kind of seemed like it was contrary or contradicted with the intro. It seemed like the intro, she's like a fighter and she's a martial artist, and then in the actual introduction in this first episode, they make mention, they're just like, yeah, I picked her because of her cunning and agility.
There's a lot that doesn't make sense for the selection process, which we'll get to. It is a very weird selection process. Yeah. And there are a lot of very strange things that kids just kind of accept because it's cartoon logic and whatever. But I had to take a step back and be like, what is happening here? So yeah. We'll get there. We don't have to go through every character here, but is there any other one from the heroes that kind of stands out? I've got two that I want to talk about.
Okay. The only other one that I had was Muzzle.
We can talk about Muzzle. That's fine.
Yeah.
Without giving away
Muzzle, I just thought it was...
without giving it away. Okay, cool.
Yeah, of course. Got it. So I'm glad that we were able to just kind of like mind meld on that. That was good.
21-year-old spoiler alert, guys. We saved you. Yeah, until episode's end where we're going to spoil it, so be ready.
I thought it was really funny that, you meet him at a kill shelter, and he is... he's kind of tied up on he's Hannibal Lecter.
He's on the backboard on the stretcher. He's got the straitjacket on. He's got a literal like muzzle, but kind of like almost like catcher's mask looking muzzle on him. So not a normal thing to do for dogs, but in this case, it was kind of funny, but also super sad at the same time.
Like it was really and I love dogs. I love animals. I love dogs probably the most. And so for me, this was one of those things that like you meet this dog and it's like already tugging at my heartstrings because of the location. And then you get into the fact that like it seems like this dog is like untamable, but the dog doesn't really seem to be super. I mean, given the circumstances, the dog seems to be okay, But to like, I'm trying to figure out like in what universe and in what world is like a shelter like, you know what, he's really misbehaving, stand him up like Anthony Hopkins,
strap him
in Silence of the Lambs, and then strap that fucker in there. I do like it
as a design choice because it's very obvious that it's like this is a dangerous dog, but it's also kind of funny because it's like they're treating him like a human, and he's not yet. He's not at all actually. But he's got a really kind of tragic backstory, which we'll talk about by episode's end. But yeah,
Okay.
interesting design. And he plays, this isn't really spoiler, he plays an interesting role on the team. He's never transdogmified, but they do, did you read this? They do keep him as like their secret weapon. So they keep him in case they get into trouble, like with something they can't handle, or they need kind of like a wild card to come in. They're just kind of like, let's muzzle him, and they unleash muzzle, and I guess he just goes nuts. And weirdly, this is the second week in a row where something from a crazy cartoon that I've seen maybe once stuck in my subconscious to the point that I turned it into my own idea. And I've had like story ideas and stuff with like, commandos or mercenaries or whatever, where they have sort of like superpowered allies, but they've always got this one guy behind them who's like super locked down, chained down. They never let him go anywhere, because once you let him off that chain, he's kind of like the Hulk, right? He's incredibly powerful as long as he's on your side, but he's also super chaotic, and you might not be able to get him back under restraints again. Who the fuck knew that it came from Rovers' muzzle? So I really like that aspect of it.
It's funny that you bring up the Hulk, because we have another character that's on here that upon watching it, I was like, oh, this group's the Thing.
You're talking about Shag?
Like, and we're talking about Shag.
So cute though.
Yeah, he is.
He's old sheepdog.
But one
of two characters voiced by Frank Welker, the other, of course, being Muzzle, because these characters don't really speak. They just kind of make weird noises that are reminiscent of Scooby-Doo. So a lot of Frank Welker stuff going on.
It's like right in Welker's wheelhouse to be able to do that. They're like, we need dogs that make weird noises. They're like, I got Frank on the phone already. I'm dialing.
Me. It's weird. So it's worth mentioning that like all these dogs have a trait that helps them fit in on the team, to either be like a leader or to be a skilled martial artist or whatever. But they also have powers too, right? So what is Shag's trait that he's kind of known for, and what is his power that he brings to the team?
It seems like it's bravery, and what he brings is not bravery.
Yeah, he's selected for bravery as a sheepdog, but he's the most cowardly of the bunch. He doesn't want to be recruited. He doesn't want to show up with the rest of the team. He doesn't want to leave his like little pod when he gets transdogmified. He doesn't want to fight really, even though he's like the biggest, possibly strongest one on the team. But I love his special ability. And his special ability is that he can hide. You don't get a sense of this really from the first episode, but his special ability is that he can hide anything the team needs and carry it with them within his fur.
Oh.
So he's essentially just like a magic like handbag that he can just pull everything out of Hammer's face.
He's a fucking purse.
He's a giant purse, and it's
Dog's
hilarious.
A giant purse.
I like that a lot, and he's their cook too. You find that out later. Yeah, he's a cook for the team. Yep. That's cool.
I like that. So you mentioned you have two characters.
Yeah, we talked about Muzzle. I really like Exile. And I like Exile because it's a Siberian Husky, and I had a Malamute growing up, so it's another like sled dog, pack dog. He has a full Russian name, which is Exilo Mikhailovich Sanhusky, which is ridiculous. And he's got the most kind of like ridiculous superpowers, because they were like, I don't know what else to give him, so let's give him super strength, and his eyes are gonna like shoot heat beams and ice beams. Like they loaded this dude up.
Wait, he shoots. Are you serious?
Yeah.
He shoots both.
He gets
fire and ice out of his eyes?
Apparently, at least according to the very well-researched
Holy
Wikipedia entry. But at least ice beams. We know that from this episode. Yeah,
Holy shit.
So they really beefed him up. And I like, the fake Russian accent. This is voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson. The fake, over-the-top, post-Cold War Russian accent, and like all the little puns and stuff that they gave him to do. So I like Exile. And his name's Exile. I mean,
I just think that I think that was actually a really cool name for him. But in the same way that Colleen's voice or the choices that she made for that specific character were a little bit grating, Exile's was not. It was still over the top. Like all of these characters are over the top. Like when you look at what was it? Blitz, it's just Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Blitz because of that same reason.
But it's just they looked for like some of these like real key tropes, and they were just playing off of those the entire time, which, as we've mentioned, it had varying degrees of success and relatability for us.
And the only ones we didn't talk about are Hunter, and the only reason we really don't mention Hunter is because he's kind of your just like typical great American dog who is just kind of the leader of the team. He's your Cyclops, he's your Superman, kind of.
He's boring.
He's just there and he gets the job done and he's fine. He's just the leader. So, I mean, he's just doing what he does. I like that he has super speed. Cool. I like that we'll talk about it in the plot. I don't want to get there yet. And then the only other hero, kind of, maybe, is Shepard, but that's up for debate because of what he does to these dogs.
Oh, you mean Christopher Lambert in the movie Mortal Kombat Raiden?
Where he just gathers up unwilling participants and subjects them to the fighting pit.
Not to mention that, but just like
the glowing
eyes of the character.
Also the very obvious glowing eyes, Dave. Well done, idiot.
Yeah, no. I mean, like, you hit it right on the head. Like, there are two very distinct points that we need to make mention of why fucking Raiden shows up in this dog
the first time he
cartoon.
shows up was terrifying. We'll talk about that in a second, because I was like, what? So
Jesus.
the only two villains that we really get an introduction to are General Parvo, who we don't see him a whole lot, but we've already talked about his name. And then the Groomer, which is possibly the worst villainous sidekick name, at least since the Wildcats. At least since Botsmaster, which was our second episode.
Probably.
Oh God, the Groomer.
The Groomer. Man, that's a bad name.
And she's just like a lady assistant, whatever. She apparently brings him throat lozenges because he coughs a lot. I guess because he has a parvovirus. So, yeah. The only other ones to talk about don't even really have names. We know that one is a Cocker Spaniel named Fluffy, one's a Dalmatian, and one is a Poodle. And these are all, at different points of this episode, changed into what are known as Cano mutants, different from Cano sapiens. So 2 different processes of taking innocent dogs and turning them into mutant monstrosities. And we'll talk about that in the plot. So let's jump into it. We get an interesting... We're not going to go through beat by beat, but I do have some questions. And most of it was actually covered in that synopsis.
Let's do these questions, man.
So
what you got? What are you so what are you confused about from Road Rovers that we can break down for you?
We should also mention this was a Jack Connolly joint. Is that correct?
This was a recommendation from Jack Connolly. Jack Connolly on Twitter had recommended this show, and so Jack, we appreciate it. Thank you. We hope that you
and that we did it justice, and that we're not tearing it apart like we tend to do.
As we normally do.
No, I like the opening of this because it was like, it takes place 1 year before the Road Rovers were even actually like created. So you see this weird kind of backstory between General Parvo, who has what looks like a dog carrier with a whimpering dog in it. And this is important for what we're going to reveal at the end of the episode. He's got a dog carrier with the sounds of the whimpering dog coming out of it. And he's going up to Professor Shepard, and basically they're making an exchange. Parvo's going to give Shepard his dog Scout back if Shepard hands over, what a trade, by the way, if he hands over these blueprints for his incredible gene-based machine, the Transdogmifier. Yeah.
I can't hear it and not laugh. It's so ridiculous.
But it's kind of like a sad scene because it's like this big muscle-bound dude with a metal skull. The top half of his skull is metal, like a metal cap. He kidnapped this dude's dog and was holding it hostage. And apparently this guy loves his dog so much that he's just like, here's my life's work. Please give me my dog back. So, I mean, that sounds fine, right? Like everything's totally kosher with that.
Yeah. It's like ransomware, but with
but then not even, because it turns out there is no dog.
Oh, not even a dog. So it's pretty much
it's just straight up ransomware with bombs. Because inside of this dog carrier is a bomb. It goes off.
Well, he didn't send enough bitcoins. Right. If you send enough bitcoins, then you get your dog back.
That's right. Moral of the story: dogs or bombs. Yeah. Nothing in between.
Guys, mine bitcoins. Send them to Dave and I. We want to actually figure out what. We want to give you your dogs back
and not bombs. We got a lot of dogs here and a lot of bombs, and something bad's gonna happen. So please send your bitcoins to SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. But no, Jesus. So then, I mean, the bomb literally blows up. You're expecting like somebody to come in at the last second and maybe defuse it or whatever, but no, it blows up the entire facility. And then in the space of 1 year, apparently this guy's able to get his life back together, completely rebuild his facility, and move it underground, and start his business again.
I mean, I love the initiative behind this because it really shows how smart he is and that he's not
very
fucking
focused
around,
in like dog into human science. Very focused.
Right. And I even love the little interstitial bump that they have from this explosion that happens in the lab, where like the lab literally crumbles into the side of a mountain. It's like it's destroyed. And then a little title screen flashes. It's like 1 year later, or 7 years in dog years. And I'm just like,
that's pretty good.
Man, we're doubling down on this within like the first couple minutes.
Because you just introduced a general who kidnaps dogs and then blows up professors if he doesn't get his way. So you kind of have to lighten that up a little bit. So I like that they were like seven in dog years. And then we get another quick little stinger of like this New England like coastal village area. There's an old lady. She has a little cocker spaniel that runs off into the woods. Something happens to it. And then the dog comes back home and it's turned into this like 10-foot tall mutant monstrosity. And the old lady's like, you got into something, which is so cute. She's presumably just like torn to shreds. But we don't see that on screen, obviously. And then Raiden shows up. And this is where everything starts to get real weird. Tell me about Raiden.
So as we mentioned, this character is Dr. Shepard. He has no eyeballs anymore. It's just glowing light, and presumably it also looks like when he talks, like there's glowing light coming out of his
Manhattan
mouth
or something.
Yeah, and so this Watchmen-esque freak just is sort of like permeating light and just talking to these dogs like
it
it's
wasn't
no
even
big
at the dogs
deal.
yet. So, this is where he's staring right at the camera with his glowing radioactive eyes, and he just goes, "It has begun." That's going to scare the shit out of kids. They don't know what's happening yet.
There is zero context for it. You get no idea what is happening. All you get is "it has begun," and you're like, okay, cool, because then it sort of looks like. Because then it looks like it's almost a found footage movie where dogs are being abducted.
It was like a weird, combination of like alien abduction meets Captain Planet and the Planeteers. Like the selection process was very strange.
Yeah, but I mean, at least in Planeteers, like birds or animals or a dolphin is just like, here's a ring that you don't know, that doesn't have an instruction manual. You'll figure it out. And then Gaia abducts you. And this just one, like it was just
of light and
like
a
beams
voice.
of light, like a spotlight.
And a disembodied voice being like, What did he say? Just like, he just named him, right? He's like, exile, I choose you. And the dog's like, the fuck?
What's that Pokemon, Dave?
That's true. I don't think he did say I choose you.
But I mean, like it was literally a spotlight that pops down on the dog. And in this case, it just goes, exile, you have been chosen. And then that's all the context
and
that
the dog,
given.
Like, doesn't freak out like I would if that happened. I think anybody in the right mind would be like, the fuck? Like, I'll take a ring from a dolphin, but I'm not just going to go follow a light. Not crazy.
Yeah. I would have freaked out.
These dogs.
One, because I would have been like, I'm a dog now.
I woke up as a dog. This is a weird.
Woke up as I should not eat a lot of pizza before I go to bed. I woke up as a dog.
This is a very Kafka-esque situation.
Yeah, man.
So he names all the dogs and just basically says, like, you're chosen. And they all, for the most part, just run off to join whatever's about to go down. You do get different introductions. So, like, Exile's just literally out by himself in the Siberian snow, just, like, sleeping. Tundra. Just sleeping by himself. He takes off. Colleen is, like, fighting other dogs over a bone.
Yeah. They actually do a decent job with this because they're, it's hard because I guess maybe the censors were like, we don't want to show dog fighting, and so they get around a lot of this
showing like the shadows on the wall,
by showing shadows, or they show like dust clouds as we get later with Blitz. So there's no actual action. It's just sort of that like cartoon confusion or sort of cartoon shadowing.
Didn't Blitz bite that car thief on the butt though?
He did, but then like when he gets into the car and he begins to attack him, it's just like that
dust.
Peanuts dust cloud, like inside where, you don't really see any of the action that's taking place. It's just all of a sudden the car just spits out.
And he's all bloody and shredded up.
Yeah, his clothes are all destroyed. His butt's got a big old chunk out of it.
So the funny one was like Shag, because he just kind of like hid behind a tree, and then Raiden had to like encourage him to show up. So eventually he comes around.
And even during the encouragement portion of his coaching, you don't even really know that Shag is going. He sort of seems like he's slinking off, like, oh, I don't want to get. Don't want to get involved with this shit.
He's the only
Sorry,
level-headed one of the bunch.
Yeah, I wasn't even supposed to work today. I'm gonna,
He's like that old sheepdog cartoon where they clock in and out. You remember that? Where they'd clock in at the tree.
No.
The wolf would come in, and the sheepdog would show up, and he'd have his little like his coffee thermos and his little like sandwich bag, and he'd be like "Morning, Frank," and he'd clock in, and then he'd go hang out with the sheep, and the wolf would clock in and be like "Morning, Terry" or whatever, and he'd go to the other side.
What were they selling?
No. They were clocking in to work their shifts. So the sheepdog was clocking in to work his shift, protecting all the sheep, and the wolf was clocking in to try to sneak in and steal them.
Oh, I thought you were saying this was a cartoon.
What the fuck? It's not like real life.
Oh, like a Far Side cartoon,
like a Looney Tunes animated old school
cartoon.
Oh, okay. Merry Melodies, maybe.
I thought you said it. I thought you mentioned it was a commercial, and I was like, these Old Spice commercials.
Yeah, well,
really
it could have
fucking
been the same
weird.
thing. But yeah.
Just one of them erupts into Terry Crews.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd watch that.
Essentially, Terry Crews is like one of these Road Rovers, but then,
100%.
So you've already mentioned that Muzzle was one of the dogs that was set up for to be euthanized by lethal gas, and they do not shy away from showing you this like tank where lethal gas is going to be used to kill these dogs. And we say,
presumably they're at like a PETA headquarters,
or just like a shelter that happens to be a kill shelter.
No, but probably a PETA place. Yeah, I'm gonna keep saying PETA place.
Out back. This episode not sponsored by PETA Pit. So what's kind of messed up is that there's another dog there, and he's the great American dog. He's Hunter, and Hunter is chosen, and the voice tells him, because he's watching as Muzzle's being led away to the gas chamber, essentially, and the voice tells him, Hunter, you've been chosen, but just run away and don't involve yourself with this dog, because you basically have to get on with your life. It's over for him, which is a weird thing for like a disembodied spotlight voice to say, I'd think.
I feel like anytime if Raiden was to actually say something, he should have just like put his hands out in front of and just like supercharged and then Supermaned like towards that person
something
and just screamed and then just knocked him back, and I've been like, gotta knock this off, Miss Lambert.
He didn't do it. So it was a nice moment because Hunter actually comes in and saves Muzzle, and they both run off. Hunter even stops to get his favorite tennis ball, and they both run off together. I thought that was really cute, and it definitely felt like a test that he passed. The rest of them just happened to like be chosen. He looked like he had to pass a test for some reason.
Yeah, and it was it was fun.
It was a nice moment,
like, because even grabbing the tennis ball like for 2 seconds, I was like, he's pushing the hand truck that Muzzle is on with his teeth, and I was like, where's he going to put the tennis ball? And then they threw the tennis ball in his little arms that are like in a straitjacket, and I was like,
Muzzle. I'm like, what a good dog, what a good smart boy.
It was good continuity. I mean, like, they didn't drop anything.
They didn't drop
it was like great.
So, here's my first question of the night, because all the dogs now show up back at the lab. Yeah. Why does the entrance to the underground lab look like an anus?
Oh, I didn't.
They weirdly zoom in from like a sky-high view of this like rocky hole in the ground, and as it gets closer and closer, it just looks like they're zooming in on an asshole.
I can explain that one. Yeah, okay. There's a real logical explanation for this. Because they're gearing up in like 30 seconds time to make a butt sniffing joke,
and they're just prepping your mind for that.
In your brain, they're just like, if we incept you with a butthole, you won't be weirded out when we make a joke about dogs sniffing each other's buttholes. Because at one point, Raiden just says, he's like, I want you to greet the members of your pack.
After he's transformed them now into their kind of human-looking versions. Yeah.
Right. So they're not just dogs. They're Cato sapiens at this point. And he's like, greet the members of your pack. And then the camera stands still, and all of them duck below below frame.
It's just their tails.
And just start like, above. Yeah, and you just see tails, and you just hear like,
oh, hello, oh, hey, good to meet you.
Followed by like, oh, hi,
hey,
hey, how's it going? Oh, and like, and it keeps on a butt sniff joke for like a good 15, 20 seconds, where you're just like, oh, they're having fun with this. Yeah. They are really, it was. I think
it must have been fun for the voice cast too, because they just got to be like, oh, hey, oh, hello, oh, hey,
oh,
whoa,
hey, oh, hello, great.
So that literally catches you up to what I said in the synopsis. And then the rest of this is a fun kind of like train heist and just like weird shit going down, which, I mean, The MacGuffin of this thing, they actually tried to work the device that's being stolen from this train into the plot of the episode, which was kind of nice. Apparently, Parvo is still trying to perfect his science of turning dogs into these Cano mutants, which are bigger but dumber versions of the Cano sapiens. His problem is that they're not stable, and he needs this device called a molecular stabilizer to keep their transformation more stable. But I'm just impressed, no matter how stupid the name is, that they actually like worked it into the plot. They didn't need to do that at all. But he's this is the thing that I need because I keep turning this poodle into a beast and then it turns back into a poodle. What am I going to do with it? And he tells Groomer to get rid of it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, which was brutal. I was like, whoa, settle down, Michael Vick.
Fair and accurate. God. But here's my next question, right? Nothing to do with the train. Let me get back to Raiden. He steals dogs. He mutates them.
Got it.
He puts them into service fighting other mutated dogs for the offer of giving them 3 square meals and a spot on the carpet by the fire as long as they stay off of the sofa. And then eventually he'll find a home for them.
That's actually there's one thing in there. He said, I'll give you 3 meals a day, a weekly bath, and a carpet in front of the fire.
As long as they stay off the sofa.
And then he scolds them for the sofa. And he says, that'll find you guys homes. And I was like, so what's the question? Because that sounds like a pretty sweet gig.
Kidnapping of the dogs, mutating them against their will, and then forcing them into servitude once they don't really have another choice was a little weird for me. Especially with like a white-haired, glowing-eyed mad scientist type who's got who's got muzzle with him. It's just kind of crazy to begin with.
Okay.
It was just like, I was like, is this guy good still or is he crazy?
Yeah, I think that I want to say that there's a little bit of crazy in terms of what's there, but at the same time, that's kind of what makes good science, is that little bit of crazy, that's available. Don't look at me like I'm crazy
eyebrow,
now.
Sean, I've raised my science eyebrow right at him. I think
that eyebrow went
up. God, why did I not get that?
I don't know.
Hashtag eyebrows. What I think it is the spirit of competition still. I think Shepard has a vendetta for Parvo, but he also wants to stop him. So I think he has this vendetta where he wants to pay Parvo back. And he kind of does by the end of the episode. But he also wants to stop him from doing what he's doing. So there's kind of like a good nature to it, but it also is kind of like, he's a little off. I'm just going to say he's a little off. Road Rovers are great. They're good dogs.
It's crazy with noble intent.
I like that. We'll go with that. Any other gags? I kind of like when they all get together and they fly. They've got like crazy vehicles. They've got a Sky Rover plane. They've got a Street Rover that apparently has like warp technology in it. That's fun.
I definitely. So 2 quick things about this episode. There's when they're splitting up and they're about to get in this like vertibird and this car. Hunter's like, "Hey, Colleen, you get in this car with me."
Sorry.
And I inappropriately just made the joke. I was like, "Yeah, so I can get dog head on the way to this mission." And I was like, "Why did I say that?" I'm a real.
There's like so many other things besides dog head.
So, of course, I make these terrible comments. But then we have Colleen when she's fighting, who she makes these comments like, I, sit, heel. And like during a 3-punch combo, she goes, Rin, tin. And I was like, you are just throwing out any dog reference, anything that's available at your disposal. I was like, I'm not faulting you for it, but again, as I mentioned with the theme song, some of it was just going so quickly and so fast that if there were gems, I don't know that as a kid, and I definitely know as an adult, I'm not going to back up to rewatch that to find where those little hidden gems were.
Did you catch the I follow-up?
Yeah, he asks, where was that from? And he says, or she says that it's from Benihana.
The one I liked from this sequence was Exile, because he was flying the plane at this point. And I think it was Blitz who was like, he's like, you got to go faster. You've got to go faster. You're never going to get there. You've got to go faster. And he's like, calm down. Everybody's always rushing me. It's like, oh God. That's pretty good though. He also got his ice vision during the Cold War. They're pretty bad.
That one was funny. He says, he goes, I must have contracted it.
Why do my Russian and German sound exactly the same?
Well, can you do the line from
What do you say?
Blitz where they show him the monsters? They show him the monsters for the first time, and he goes, "I'll get great enjoyment biting them on the tushy."
On the posterior a lot, but that's really all he kind of does.
Yeah. Hey,
just bites butts.
he just bites butts.
No, he's
Look,
great at,
don't
he's a great
fault
butt
him
biter.
for that. All right, do not.
He's a great butt biter.
Butt bite shame him. All right.
That's right. He literally.
He's a dog. He
can
do whatever
just
he
about
wants.
anything he wants.
He's
a great dog.
He's a
Best
good
12
dog.
out of 10. So eventually they take all these guys down, and then they make a fake trade. Spoiler alert, they make a fake trade. They actually give them a bomb that they found somewhere, and they give them a bomb instead of the molecular stabilizer. So lo and behold, when these mutant dogs take it back to General Parvo, he opens it up, and he says something along the lines of like, "I have a strange sense of deja vu," or something like that. Yeah. Then he blows up.
Yep.
And he's flying a giant bulldog, I forgot to mention. His giant flying ship that crashes out of a mountain is in the shape of a giant bulldog for some reason. They're all fine. They're all fine. They survive the crash. They survive the explosion in their face. But the dogs all revert back to regular dogs, which is really good for them. So let's talk about what happens to our road rovers.
Yeah.
What's up for these guys now that they've saved the day?
Now that they have saved the day, I thought the deal to get 3 meals, a bath every week, and a spot in front of a carpet in front of the fireplace is a pretty good deal. At that point, I was like, I don't really need placement for a home. It sounds like I kind of have one.
Yeah, this sounds like a thing with a home.
Yeah, but then Raiden places them in the homes of world leaders.
Yeah, unexpected.
Did not see that one coming.
Nope. I love that Hunter lives with Bill Clinton at the White House.
Yeah, right?
That's my
that
favorite
was
one.
Brilliant.
But it's like all of them stay with whatever their nationality is. So I kind of like the idea because they're reverted back to regular dogs. So they're not in this permanent like human transformed state, which is unnatural for them. They'd have to get jobs and like social security
pay
cards
dog
and all
taxes.
kinds of stuff. Yeah, exactly. Dog taxes, bitcoins. And then so they revert back to dog form, and then they live with world leaders. I thought that was super sweet and just like a cool way, if they're needed, if there is an international incident, the world leaders are probably going to be the first ones to know. And then the dogs are going to be there, and they're going to hear about it. They'll be like, well, time to hit the road rovers.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think about that, but that makes a lot of sense now.
I think I only thought about it because I think they actually used that plot point in the show itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, so we talked about a 21-year-old spoiler in the making.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
About the ending of this. And so I wanted to allow you to spoil this for everybody now, Dave.
All right, so remember Muzzle from the beginning. Actually, go back further. Remember that Parvo had taken the dog from Shepard and then did not give that back. He was presumed lost or whatever. Experimented on, who knows. And then we meet Muzzle, who we don't know who his owner is, and he is kind of sentenced to death but saved by Hunter. It turns out, once they're reunited, Muzzle is actually Scout. That was Shepard's old dog that was originally kidnapped by Parvo. And they are now reunited and back together. But that's sweet, except for the kind of crappy things that Shepard was going to just let Muzzle be euthanized if Hunter didn't save him. And B, that Muzzle is the way that he is because Parvo, I believe, experimented on him. And he never fully transformed, but he also never fully recovered. So his brain's kind of scrambled. So it's kinds of messed up.
It was also really weird for me to see that ending because there was a moment where I was like, oh, what a sweet kind of tender moment where they found each other. I didn't even realize that it was his old dog.
Yeah, because he says Scout. He's like, good to see you, boy. Or Scout.
I thought maybe he just renamed this dog. He was like, haha, Muzzle, what a great name. Your name's now Scout,
it's
boy.
It's quite possible because he's also insane. So
yeah.
But
then there was like there was a part of me that thought, what if he never had a dog? What if he was just treating a bomb like a dog in the beginning? And like he just had like a bomb and like a dog carry on. And like, that's what had happened.
So I don't even blame General Parvo at that point. He'd just be like, this guy's obviously crazy. I got to get these schematics out of his hands. He's nuts. Right. Parvo was the hero the whole time.
Yeah, and that makes much more sense why we have this competition, this crazy but noble intent for all of this competition now is just because, like, Raiden's a madman. Like, he shouldn't have this technology.
He should not have glowing eyes, he should not have dog machines, and he should not have bombs instead of dogs. Even though we both are currently surrounded by lots of bombs and dogs from our listeners out there. Again, get those Bitcoins in.
The challenge is he's done this to dogs. What next? Is he going to do this to turtles? What is he going to do next after that? Is he going to do Battletoads?
He teases about cats a lot.
Maybe not. Yeah, he really, at least with that, I will say, again, consistency-wise, he hits that joke and he does it 3 times. Yep. I was like, he did it once. I was like, okay, that's an interesting thing. The second time, I was like, you better close the loop on this asshole. And when he said it, I was like, all right, it wasn't necessarily the joke that I wanted, but fine.
It was there.
You got 3.
An effort. Yeah.
That's wrapping it up for this episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that'll do it for this episode. Anything else? Any other closing thoughts before we get into some other opinions out there?
No, let's do these other opinions.
All right, buddy. We actually only have, for Love It or Hate It tonight, we've only got, drum roll, wait for it, suspense, a Love It review. That's it. There is no haters. We actually had 10 of these on IMDb, and they were all pretty much love it. The most disparaging one was an 8-star out of 10.
Oh.
Do you want to take Love It tonight?
Yeah, let's do this. So this comes from Castro Starlight 1 in the US back in 2006. This is titled Road Rovers. This is confusing. Road Rovers was a wonderful show and will be sorely missed. The Road Rovers was a great show about canine superheroes chosen by the master to fight crime around the world. The show was hilarious, to say the least. Simple and complex jokes that could appeal to all ages. Running jokes throughout the series that could spawn a drinking game. The action was mesmerizing, cleverly set up. The characters were very original, each with a very different personality, but what made me enjoy the show the most was the depth of the character. Each of them have struggles and emotional difficulties that are never expressed but implied in subtext. Hopefully one day, there'll be some way to watch the Rovers in action again.
Well, good news there, what is it? Casto Starlight? Casto Starlight?
Yeah, Casto.
Good news, Casto. It is now the future from when you wrote that, and there is a 40 gig Blu-ray available to watch all 13 episodes of The Road Rovers as many times as you want in high definition.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Yeah. So yeah, we don't have a hate it tonight, so that means it's time for recommendations. Buddy, do you recommend Road Rovers? And if not, does it get the dip, meaning it is erased from existence for all time?
I recommend this.
Cool.
I think that it was well done and well executed, albeit some of the action that we had towards the second half of this first episode was very quick, non-existent, and didn't really need to be there. But I think that the setup and the idea behind this is very fun. And I'm kind of sticking around to see if I can watch some more episodes because I'm curious what's going to happen with Raiden. Maybe we get a Mortal Kombat crossover.
You think we're going to get the tournament with the... I'd love it if there was a crossover between this and the animated Mortal Kombat series.
Oh my God. No, I just, this was well done. They did a decent amount of dog puns that were in here. Yeah. And I as we've mentioned so far, they did a pretty good job of having closure, recapping on everything.
Yeah.
Using every piece of the buffalo when it came to certain jokes. And so I really did appreciate that. So I would recommend this.
Yeah, and honestly, compared to my God, the Mighty Ducks or any other number of anthropomorphic animal humanoid characters, it seems like they had a lot more fun with this. This was less kind of action focused. There was action and adventure in it, but it was less action focused and more kind of comedic. It was more humor focused. And I think you kind of have to do that when you have something like the Road Rovers. I feel like we gotta watch Cowboys of Moo Mesa because I can't remember what the tone of that thing was, but I don't think it was. I think they took it pretty seriously.
It takes place on a little planet called New Texas.
New Texas, the Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa.
Oh man, I just want a Cowboys of Moo Mesa and a Brave Star crossover.
Yeah, because they're kind of the same thing. So I mean, yeah,
basically
there's that. So.
Oh man, so
sorry, we just had a special guest drop by.
You did it, Jack Connolly. You did it.
Good job, Jack.
Great recommendation.
Great
you
job,
did it,
Jack.
buddy. Thank you.
Doesn't get the dip, which means you can still watch that 40 gig Blu-ray. But since we didn't have a hater tonight, we actually have some fun fan email that we're going to read.
Yeah.
So we're going to split this one up a little bit. This one comes from our buddy Douglas J. Kendall. who wrote to us in regard for our recent fan cast episode. Now, that was one where Sean and I did not review a cartoon series. We actually took one of our favorites and then cast it as if they were going to recast it for a series or even as a movie, and then even spun off some plot points. So I think I picked Centurions as one of my ideas. What was the one that you had? You had an interesting one. Was it Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines?
Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines.
That's what I thought.
And also Big O.
Also Big O, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read, and then Douglas actually had a suggestion of his own. So we're going to read both of that tonight. Since he talked about, let's see, what do we got here first? He says, Cartoon Fan Cast was a very fun episode. Dave's Centurions idea was amazing. I would totally see that movie opening night. And then he makes some comment about Sean's idea too, which I guess is great.
Shut the fuck up.
He says Sean's Bigfoot idea was great too. Now he's got 2 pitches for us. So I'm going to take the first one here.
All right.
The first is a remake of Pro Stars featuring LeBron James, Sidney Crosby, Tom Brady, and Felix Hernandez as part-time secret agents recruited by the CIA to fight terrorists. It would be a comedy focusing on how unsuited they are in doing this. Think The Interview. I love this idea. It would be amazing to see kind of like the current slate of top-tier sports athletes. You picked a great cast here to get to see them back in a cartoon and hopefully caring as little about it as Wayne Gretzky did for the original Pro Stars. What's interesting is they are still in the process of working on Space Jam 2, and LeBron James is supposed to be leading that. So it'll be interesting to see if that does well or if it even ever gets made, how that's going to do. But I would love to see Pro Stars 2.0 with the modern era. Sean's got the second one for us.
I was gonna say, Doug, the only addition I would have that would be on there was that you get a pro wrestler in there somehow.
Yeah, throw him in
and
there.
So let's just
get some John Cena.
That's exactly who I was gonna say.
Yep,
yes,
very excited. Yep.
Just get John Cena in there. That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Everything else I love, especially the fact that you're just like they're unsuited to fight
love that.
Terrorists.
Honestly, he saved it when he was like, they're unsuited at this position.
This is perfect.
That's good.
So the other one we have is says is a big budget action horror movie based on the Inhumanoids, featuring Carl Urban, great choice, as Herc Armstrong, Michael Cera as Dr. Bright, Michael Rooker as Augur, and Lawrence Fishburne as Liquidator. The Inhumanoids would be voiced by Michael Shannon as Metlar, Andy Serkis as Decompose, and Frank Weller as Tendril, with Ava Green and Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Sandra and Blackthorn Shore, with Sean Bean, does he die in this?
Yeah,
as the voice of Redlin, and Mickey Rourke as Granok. The film would focus more on the Lovecraftian aspect of the story as the humans and mutors work together to banish the Inhumanoids from our dimension, but the humans turned on the mutors and almost wiped them out. Thousands of years later, a cult led by Blackthorn Shore uses an ancient book of spells to bring the Inhumanoids back to the Earth, and all hell breaks loose. The Earth Core is assembled to study the phenomenon and meet up with the mutors, who are not all that concerned about the humans. The new team and the mutors will work together to stop and kill the threat of the Inhumanoids if they don't kill each other first.
I love it. I love that stinger at the end. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun, and it's an interesting way to like take that Inhumanoids story, which was just bonkers, and then kind of spin it around into something new too. But also to keep the kind of roots of what they had there. And Andy Serkis is Decompose. I mean, how do you not like that? So yeah, that sounds like fun. And honestly, I'd love to get to the point where we could like. This is a pipe dream of mine. I'd love to get to the point where we could like buy some of these old properties and actually do something with it, even if it was just like fan art based or things like that. So if you guys are out there and you have fan art submitted or even have fanfic that you'd like to get, some eyeballs on, send us some links. Let us know. Send it directly to Sean's house. We'll check it out. We'll take a look. I'll post his address, phone number, a list of fears online. You can do with that information what you will. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys, and we love hearing fan mail like this. Super cool idea, and we love having the conversation with you back and forth. So thanks again.
Thank you, Doug.
All right, Sean, speaking of that contact info, what are you up to in the next couple of weeks, and where can folks find you out there on the webs?
Oh, man, as always, I do live improv comedy in Washington, D.C. with a group that's called Nox. That's NOX ! We perform with Washington Improv Theater. You can find tickets and showtimes witdc.org. I also organize a comedy festival that happens in DC. It is called the District Improv Festival. We have our 5th annual District Improv Festival that is coming up. It is going to be September 6th through the 9th. It's districtimprov.org to buy tickets. Great thing is that if you're in the area and you're just like, I don't really know if I want to come out and see an improv show, hey, don't worry about it. Wednesday night is all completely free, and so is Saturday afternoon at 2:30. Saturday afternoon at 2:30. You can come and check it out. You can find tickets and information on Facebook if you search District Improv Festival, as well as also districtimprov.org. And as always, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Sean Paul Ellis. Dave, what are you up to?
Well, we'll have all Sean's information up on our website as well, and you can also find me on Twitter at DrClawMD. You can find me on Collider.com, Nerdist.com, and DaveTrumbore.com as well if you'd like to read some of my writing up on those fine sites. If you want to know more about this show right here, please head on over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. Remember, it's morning with you. You can also check out our aforementioned website, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Find us on Twitter at MorningTunes. Check out Sean's handiwork on our Instagram page to keep the conversation going on Facebook. And listen to our free audio podcast each and every week through YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. As always, drop us a line, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. August will continue next week with more cartoon craziness. We're going to have some more listener suggestions out there, so keep an ear out and see if we pick your cartoon series that we have not covered in the previous 167 episodes. And if you really want to know what's coming up in the next few weeks, definitely check out that Patreon page because that's where we send our newsletter out. So if you chip in even at the lowest amount, I believe, is it $3? I think at $3 is our lowest amount.
I think it's $3, yeah.
Yeah. That gets you access to our newsletter where obviously all the news that we have coming out is going to be posted, but also the lists of cartoon series we're going to be talking about for the coming month. So head on over there and check that out. And always thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.